Have you ever had low motivation to work on something because the parts you bought just don't fit? Well, that's what happened to me. I'm going to take you through some of the problems that I had with the clutch hydraulic system, and I'm going to show you how to install what I bought on the 2000 hatchback Civic. Aside from the pedal assembly and transmission, this is the majority of the parts that make up the clutch hydraulics. Well, actually, it's all the parts that make up the hydraulics. Fresh out of the box from A&W Auto Parts is a stainless steel braided PTFE 3AN clutch line. It came with an adapter for the slave and a banjo for the master. If you look closely, it's a flat head on the bottom side of the bolt, and when it goes into the clutch master cylinder and it's tightened down fully tight, it's loose. That was a fairly simple fix. What I did is I took a drill bit and drilled the hole out. See, it's got a little bit of a chamfer in it now. So when you tighten it down, it's snug. That was the first thing that didn't work. When I was putting the adapter from the 3AN into the clutch slave, I noticed that it was just a little bit loose, and when it was tight, it still wobbled. So that told me that the bolt was way too small. So I had to order a 10 by 1 to 3AN adapter. If you look at them, they're very similar but totally different. When the new one came in, it screwed right in real tight and it's snug. When I install this into the car, this is a Honda S2000 clutch master cylinder. It won't fit into the Civic without an adapter, and that just simply goes over. This bolts into the firewall, and you've got two nuts. The clevis goes over the brake pedal, and a pin goes through, letting it actuate. We'll hook the line up to here, and the other end to that, mounted on the transmission, and that's going to be our clutch hydraulic system. So let's get that on the car. Well, I guess we got to get the stuff off the car first. First thing I'm going to do is drain the fluid out of the system. I've got a piece of a vacuum hose and an old water bottle. Sit down and test it. Boy, I don't spill any. loosen the bleeder screw up there first. Just let it drain into that. Take the cap off the reservoir so it'll gravity drain into it. And I'll come back to that in just a little bit. Next, I can take the 2 bolts off of the inside side of the firewall. Get the clutch master cylinder out of there. Under the dash, you have 1 bolt or 1 nut on this bolt, 1 nut on this bolt. On the crevice, a lot of times you'll have a cotter pin. You just take that out. After fighting with the cotter pin for a few minutes, usually they come out looking like this. Now that the cotter pin's out, the clevis pin usually comes out really easily. Comes out like that. And it's free. Next, you take the 2 bolts out, and then it's ready to come out from underneath the engine side. Under the hood, you have 2 10mm head bolts to hold the reservoir on. And 1 10mm brake line nut. That holds the master cylinder to the rest of the clutch hydraulic system. That nut right there has to come off. Then the master cylinder is ready to take out of the car. If all you were replacing was the master cylinder, you could go back and just the reverse of this and bleed it out and probably be done with the system. Since I'm replacing the whole thing, I'm going to take this line completely out all the way over to the soft line here. The next thing I'm going to take off is the slave cylinder. It's got 1 10mm line nut. And of course I can't hold on to the ratchet wrench. As far as slave cylinders are concerned, the Honda slave cylinder for the B and D series is pretty easy to take off. They've got 2 bolts that hold them to the transmission and 1 line. There are a lot harder slave cylinders to take off. Some Fords, for instance, you have to actually take the transmission out of the car to change the slave cylinder. almost got it. Hot dog. That's it. Alright, that'll come loose. Well, that's the slave cylinder off. And if anybody's curious, the Blox slave cylinder is also a 3/4 inch bore, the same as the factory, or 19mm. Now that the clutch master cylinder, the line set that went across the firewall to those two bolts sticking out, it ran under and snaked its way down past the transmission all the way to its home location down there. All that stuff is out. That's basically what we've got out of the car. So we're going to take all of that new stuff and stick it back in, bleed it out, and see if we have a clutch again. Before I install a new clutch master cylinder, I like to take and measure how long the push rod is. We got about 3¼ inches, and I'd like to transfer that over to the new one right there. About 3¼ inches. The S2000 clutch master cylinder, in my opinion, looks a lot better in the engine bay. Oops. This is extremely tough when you're trying to do it with one hand. Check out how good that S2000 master cylinder looks in there. Now that we've got it all in and bled out, it's time to move on to the next project. Before I let you go, I want you guys to check out this clutch pedal. I wish you guys could feel how good it feels. Man, that feels so much better than it did. If you guys like this video, please subscribe, there's more content to come on the Civic. I'm going to do vents, pocket vents, and pockets on the next video. Or maybe I'll do putting a tack in. I like that. I might put a tack in the thing next. Stay tuned.